Hey folks, there's no voice. I'm not speaking right now. Okay, the every second it touches 100 people, we'll start because I've already messaged on the Slack group also. Anyway, we'll just wait for a couple of minutes probably. Right. Meanwhile, guys, did everyone understand the concepts that we covered yesterday? So broadly, we talked about events, right? And actually, we went into great depth yesterday, talking about events. In events, we covered the very important concept of bubbling, right? And we realized what bubbling is when there is one type of event listener attached on a child, how it keeps bubbling up, right? And then we also did sort of a mini project also where we took advantage of the bubbling concept, right? And using that, whenever we were clicking on one of the inner divs, it was showing us here what the inner text of that div was, right? So again, any questions that we have? Anyone? Or is it absolutely clear? Okay, no one has any questions? Okay, perfect. Cool, we'll just wait for a few minutes then. Yes, of course. Of course, Ajay. Okay, so quickly, what we'll talk about is event bubbling, right? In event bubbling, we saw a couple of things, right? I'll just talk about the most important one of them, and that should actually revise everything, right? So we know that when we are applying an event listener to the top element, right? So in here, what I've done is to the grid parent, which is basically this guy, which is in this yellow kind of color, right? To this guy, I've applied a click listener, right? However, if you notice, there was no click listener that was applied to either of the inner div elements, right? So this guy does not have a click listener. This guy does not have a click listener. None of them have a click listener, right? But what I wanted to see is whenever either of these guys is clicked, the click on should just mention its inner text, right? So because of the concept of bubbling, we know a very simple thing that any click that happens on the inner child, it's going to bubble up, right? And since the first event listener in the parent chain, in the ancestor chain, is applied on grid parent, the click event listener of grid parent is going to get triggered, right? So what that means is now that you click on any one of these elements, let's say I click on item 6, right? What happens? The click listener of its parent, right, or its grandparent gets triggered. In there, what we are doing is we are selecting event.target, right? And if you guys remember what was event.target was actually the element which started that bubbling, right? So when you click on this, basically this is the guy which started that bubbling, right? And this guy is something that we are able to receive here, right? And then simply we are saying heading, which is this guy, dot inner text is click on and the target text, which was nothing but event.target text. So what that does is whichever one you're clicking, right, that guy is getting triggered, correct? And that was the implementation we did. Now, when we were doing this, Amit brought up a good question that when we were clicking this one, right, what was happening is it was showing us the inner text of all of these elements, right? So we played very tricky there. and we put a check in here, this if check. What does this say? If event.target was equal to event.current target, right? So what is current target, guys? The element which is being clicked on, right, is the current target, and event.target is the one which started the event, right? And if you notice this carefully, only when you are clicking on this grid parent, current target and target are going to be same, right? Because this is the guy who's starting the bubbling, and this is the guy whose click event listener is getting triggered, right? And on that, we said, hey, please click on any of the inner elements, right? So if you click on this, it's fine. The moment you click on this, it's not fine, right? So this is all there is to know about the concept of bubbling. If we understand this, then we are done. Is everyone clear? Guys, is everyone clear? Can we say yes if we are clear, or no? Please say yes, everyone who's understood this. Let me see how many of you understood this. Okay, only so few people. Okay, okay, Shanu, Sunny, who else? Nice, 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 nice. मयंक, आपको नहीं समझ आया तो बोलो ना yes. Okay, good guys, pretty good. Shubham is also clear as always. Sirjul is also clear, very nice. Okay, wonderful guys, this is good to see. Now we are at a population of 104, and now we will be starting with probably what can be considered as one of the most important technical topics of JavaScript. Okay, let's begin, right? So guys, in the next 3 days, we are going to touch JavaScript to its very core, right? And these are the kind of concepts that you will not find in books. These are the kind of concepts that are very misunderstood, right? So if you can focus on these, that the ones that we talk about in the next 3 days, you would really become from beginner JavaScript learners, you will transition into advanced JavaScript learners, right? Not experts, but definitely advanced. So please be very, very attentive as we go through this series in the next couple of days, right? This is going to touch the very depths of what is known as prototype chain, inheritance, and also objects, right? Because at the end of the day, everything in JavaScript is just an object. Cool. Shall we begin? Everyone ready? Okay, nice one, Ari. Okay. So what I'm going to talk about today, just laying down the foundation very gently, is called prototype. Right? So what is prototype? Okay, so in one of the classes, Amit asked me, hey, whenever we are creating an object, let's say the name of the object was temp, I say A1, B2, right? We created this object. Oops, I put a semicolon. Just getting used to my new keyboard. Okay. Now, if you look at temp, right, in detail, what you're going to see, guys, you're going to see these two keys, and you see something here, right? Do you notice this, everyone? Right? So JavaScript has automatically created this particular key for us, which it is calling as prototype. And what it is saying, hey, the prototype of temp is object. Please notice this. This is the capital object, right? Where have we encountered this? We have encountered this when we were doing things like object.keys. So object.keys of temp gives the keys of temp. Object.values gives the values of those keys. And finally, if you remember, object.entries gives those things as arrays, right? Did we remember this, guys? Keys, values, entries? Nice, a lot of you did. Wonderful. Next up. Now, let's just dive into this. What is this prototype? I just wanted to tell you what prototype looks like. Now, we'll be going deeper into this. Okay. So for the sake of this, I'm just going to, create some rudimentary objects. Okay. So let's say I wanted to create an object which was called, I don't know, let's call it animal. Okay. Earlier we were discussing about cars. Now we will talk about animals. Okay. So let's say the name of my animal dot name is equal to, I don't know, lion, right? And we'll give it some power, right? It would be a value. So I say animal dot power equals 100, right? Okay. So doing this, we know that our animal object was created. And if you look at animal, actually, it has a name and it has some power level associated with it. Correct? Right? But now, guys, we know that every object, right, or any real world object that we're trying to create, like animal is a real world object, right? Just like car was. So not just properties, it needs to have behaviors also. So can anyone tell me how to set those behaviors? Okay, so roaring is a behavior, right? Of course, it's a behavior. Barking, animal, lion does not bark, but anyway. So guys, since we are trying to give animal behaviors, let's not give behaviors which are specific to lion, right? So probably something that every animal will do, they would eat. Can I say eat? Okay. Are animal ka power is 100. What are you asking? Okay. So animal.eat is basically going to be a function, right? Right. And let's say whatever value it eats, right? Food quantity, its power should increase by that much value, right? So I'm just going to say console.log animal eats, right? And its power should increase by that much value, right? So now if you remember, guys, whenever there is an object and its function is there, right? You can access that object by using this. Perfect, man. So what can I say? This dot energy, or we're calling it power. So power is equal to plus is equal to food quantity. Does everyone understand this? Right? I can do this, right? Okay. And probably another thing that an animal can do, can run, right? So I say function, and let's say how much it's going to run, right? So basis on the length or time of its running, its energy is going to reduce. So same thing, I'm going to say console.log animal runs, and its power actually reduces by the factor of the time it's going to run, right? Right? And so it can eat, it can run. Let's just have one more. This one I'm going to call animal.rests, right? So whenever the animal is resting for whatever time, its energy is going to increase simply. Right? Animal is resting. Okay, perfect. So now we know that we have created an object which was actually animal. His name was lion. His power was 100. Whenever it's doing these things, it's either going to increase, and its energy is going to. We're just changing its power, right? Right. So let's just try if everything is working here. So I'm just going to go here, type this. Now we know animal, right? It has all these things. It has name, it has power, and it has some functions. Okay. So let's make our animal eat something. So I'm going to say animal.eat, right? And let's give him food quantity 50, right? So doing this, if you look at animal, the power has increased to 150, right? Similarly, if this guy were to rest for, let's say, 100 hours or whatever unit, its power is going to further increase, right? And when it's going to run, let's say it ran a lot, 200, it is just going to reduce its power to 50, right? So guys, did you understand this example? What have we done here? We have, so the intention of this experiment is to model an animal which has these properties, and how these properties can directly get affected by its behaviors, right? So this is the very introduction to what is known as object-oriented programming, right? Because we have one object and everything is about this object, right? Everything is about this animal. Everyone clear with this example? Of course, we can use getters, but that's not the point, man. Abhi suno, right? Just understand what I'm saying. Cool. So everyone is clear with this example. Shall I move forward? Oh, perfect. Now let's move to the second problem. What is the problem with writing code like this, guys? Let's understand that. Okay. So a very common use case is, let's say we were creating a zoo, right? So the odds are that in our zoo application, we'll need to create more than one animal, right? So essentially we want now more animals, right? Correct, guys? So we need a mechanism to create more animal. Okay. So we move towards something, we move towards a pattern, which is known as functional instantiation. Please read this again, right? So what this guy does is, we are going to say function animal, right? And I'm just going to pass two parameters to it. One is the name and the other is power. Clear? And in here, what I'm going to do is I'll just create a, what do you say, an object, animal, right? And I'll say animal dot name is name, basically whatever value is passed here. Similarly, animal dot power equals power, right? And then of course it will have its behaviors. So I'm just going to copy these, paste them here, and finally we return animal. Everyone clear with this? What I've just written here, right? Okay, and let's see how it works. Again, I'm just going to copy this here, guys, very quickly, paste it here. So now we have a mechanism to create more animals. Okay, so if I want to create an animal, what I need to do, I just need to say, let's just have a name. So let lion equals animal. The name is Liney, whatever, power is 100, right? Let dog be, and of course it's a dog, so power will be 20, for example, right? Now let's look at lion. So lion has the name Liney and all the power. Similarly, dog has the name doggy, power, right? And of course, needless to say, they work. So doggy.power is 20. And if I say doggy.eat, let's say make it eat 100, right? Then dog becomes more powerful than lion, right? Did we understand this? How we are creating real life objects, or how we are modeling real life objects, guys? Very important concept. Okay. So this pattern, right, when you're using a function to create real life objects, right, is called functional instantiation, right? So the problem with the first one, when we wrote code like this, is that it doesn't really give us a mechanism to create multiple animals, right? So because let's say if we had to fill a zoo, this guy is not going to cut it, right? So we improved. How did we improve? We improved by calling it, by looking at the pattern, which is called functional instantiation. And this is how it helped us. Now it's become very simple to create animals, right? I'll just copy those examples so that you guys have good notes. Clear? Okay, so now whenever you want to create a new animal, or basically an instance, right? Because the reason it's called functional instantiation is you are creating an instance of animal. each time, right? All you have to do is you have to call your function by passing the name and power, right? And of course, guys, this kind of thing, it works great, right? But there is some problem with this mechanism of building animals, right? So, I mean, it definitely works great. But the problem is the methods, right? Or the behaviors that we have tried to model: eat, run, and rest, right? So these are not dynamic methods, guys, right? So one, they are static methods which are already present in here. So let's say if I want to define a new property, if I want to define a new behavior for this animal, that's hard to do, right? And these are generic methods, right? So of course, every animal is going to eat, it's going to run, and it's going to rest, right? But let's say we had to factor in different things for a dog than a lion, right? Which could totally happen. So let's say for a lion, we want to have roaring, but for a dog, we want to have the barking behavior, right? So it's very hard to do that in this manner, right? Because each time you're just going to say animal and dog. Did you guys understand the problem with this method of creating animals? Yes or no, guys? Please be very attentive, right? So I'll quickly repeat. The problem is that the methods are very static. They're not dynamic in the sense I can't create a new method for animal, right? In this method, in this mechanism. And the second is these are very general methods. So there is no mechanism here for passing specific methods. Okay. And one more thing, there's one more problem. Can anyone spot that problem? Anyone? Any problem with this mechanism? Try it out. Take a second, guys. Try it out. But using this is not a problem, na, man. How is that a problem? It's a feature. Anyone? Do you see any problem with this? Yes, RV. I like what you just said. Can you just elaborate on that, RV? What do you think about default behaviors? Correct. So these are behaviors which are common in all animals, right? So that's one bit. Then what is the other problem with that? What is the problem with that? So of course, these are static behaviors, which will get a lion will also have and doggy will also have, right? Okay. Anyway, let me break the suspense. So guys, the problem with having behaviors like this is, please try to understand this. Can anyone tell me what is the nature of this function? We discussed this yesterday. What is this type of, this way of defining functions called? Anyone? Guys, someone please answer. Anonymous functions, right, Sunny? So these are anonymous functions, which means they do not have a name, right? If you remember, I'll just scroll a bit up. When we were doing the same thing here, right? When we were doing the same thing here, we were not making them, we were making them anonymous earlier, right? What is the problem we suffered? The problem we suffer, guys, very simply, is that each time you call animal, right? You call animal function, a new function will have to be created. Isn't it? Did you understand? Each time you say animal, lion, liney, animal, doggy, these things, animal.eat, run, and rest will get a new function, right? So the eat of this guy and the eat of this guy are different. Similarly, the run of this guy and the run of this guy are different, right? Because they are not commonly referenced function, right? It's not that they have a variable associated with it, they are anonymous. So each time JavaScript will have to create new functions for us. And the problem with that kind of implementation is you waste a lot of memory. Make sense for everyone? So every animal when being created, is going to get its own set of functions which do exactly the same thing, right? People, are you with me? So memory wastage thing. Okay. So see guys, whenever you're creating an object, a function or anything, right? JavaScript as a language has to reserve some memory for it, right? So basically it has to assign an anonymous function to this run guy, right? Which means each time you're doing that, you're wasting some memory, right? And consider you were creating a zoo which had 10,000 animals. Doing this for each animal is going to waste a lot more memory, right? Even when these functions were common. Okay, so we've talked about three problems, right? One is it's completely dynamic. The other is it's completely static, no dynamism, right? Second is even generic methods we have to run each time. And third is memory wastage. Okay, so let's try to improve this. Okay, so we move to a mechanism or another pattern, which is called functional instantiation with shared methods, right? So as some of you might have been able to notice with this name, what we are trying to achieve is we are trying to achieve shared methods. Okay, so instead of creating new method each time, guys, we'll write our code in such a manner that all these methods are going to get shared. Okay, how do we do that? Let me just explain a simple way. What I'm going to do is I'll create another object and I'll call it shared animal behaviors or methods. Right? And of course, I'll just specify these guys in there. So the first is going to be eat behavior. So eat is this thing. I'll just copy this very quickly. Or I'll just copy all of them. That should save some time. Right? And of course, we'll just modify them very quickly. So as you know, what I'm trying to do, guys, is I'll just remove the animal part. And in here, I'm just going to place a colon. Right? So now you have eat, you have run, and of course you have rest, right? Right. Wish this was better formatted. So now it's better formatted also. Cool. So we have shared animal methods, eat method, run method, rest method. And as some of you would have noticed, this here is going to refer to what? Guys, what is this going to refer in this case? Can someone please help me with that? Folks, it's a method. No, it's not the object name. Nahi yaar, galat mat bolo na. This is going to refer to shared animal methods, right? Correct. So we know that whenever we are inside an object, its functions, this here refers to these guys. Correct. It refers to that whole object. Right. Just be very cautious of that. Cool. Okay. Moving forward. Now let's see how we create our animal function now. So again, function animal. Right. Similarly, same thing is going to take name, power, and this guy will remain as it is. Okay, so animal is animal. Animal.name is name. Animal.power is power. Finally, see what I'm going to do now. I'll say animal.eat is equal to shared animal methods.eat. Right? Similarly, animal.run is equal to shared animal methods.run. And lastly, animal methods animal.rest is equal to shared animal methods.rest. Right? Finally, just return that animal. Okay. Now let's understand this. Now, again, we'll call these two things, and I'm going to call it animal I, which means animal improved, right? So animal I and animal I, right? So what happens when you call animal I with lion? So I'll just name this lion I and dog I, right? Which means dog improved, lion improved. So when you call animal I with liony and 100, it's going to create a new object, animal. Animal.name is set, animal.power is set. And then we say animal.eat is shared animal methods.eat, right? So what that is going to do, guys, very simply, is it's going to associate this particular function here. So it's just the equivalent of writing this guy. Right? It's just the equivalent of writing this guy. Correct? However, the advantage that you get, let's understand this, is that now shared animal methods was already created, right? And we are just referring to its common method functions. So these functions, while they were anonymous, but they have a reference attached to them, right? So and shared animal methods.eat is basically, in some sense, the name of this function. Shared animal method.run is the name of this guy, right? So doing this, what starts happening is lion eyes eat and dog eyes eat are sharing the same method, right? However, they will have their respective this, right? So the this of a lion and the this of a dog are going to be different. Why is that? Let's understand that. See, when I say let lion I is equal to animal I, basically I'm calling this function. I'm creating a new object, which is animal, right? So basically this is the new object which is being created. It's being given name and power, right? And then its methods are being set from these shared methods, right? And as you can see, animal.eat, when it will get this thing, this, right, is going to refer to this animal. Is everyone clear with this so far? Guys, please say yes or no. Yes, please see, that's what I'm saying. Please ask me to repeat, right? Each time ask me to repeat. Okay. I think the best way to do this is okay, did anyone understood this? Is there anyone who was able to understand this? Okay, Shivam, unmute pe aa jao. We'll repeat this for everyone. Okay. Come on, Shivam.
Hello.
Hi, Shivam. Can you
Yes.
open this for anyone? So we had created this animal first, right?
Yes.
Like, this way of creating animal, it's called functional instantiation. And यहाँ पे हमने दूसरे तरीके से किया, right?
Yes.
So just explain us the difference between this guy and this new guy.
Okay, sir. First in the function instantiation, we are creating a object called animal, like for lawyer and dog, and we are we are defining some functions.
Correct.
Like animal.eat and animal.run and animal.rest.
Absolutely.
Right. These are the animal objects property or method. Method.
Correct.
Okay.
And what is the problem with this? Shivam, you bhi bata do.
Yes, sir. Sir, problem इसमें जो है हम सिर्फ एक ही इंडिविजुअल एनिमल के लिए ही क्रिएट कर पा रहे हैं. सपोज ओके डॉगी. सर इसमें जो प्रॉब्लम है, लाइक ये जो मेथड है ये लाइक स्टैटिक, मतलब हम इनके ये जो डिफाइन है, अगर हम कुछ और फंक्शन डिफाइन करना चाहते हैं तो उनको डिफाइन करते समय हमें कुछ प्रॉब्लम, लॉट्स ऑफ प्रॉब्लम आएगी.
See, okay, let me repeat it, guys. The problem is, ये behaviors वो हैं which are common for every animal, right? So they were supposed to be common for lion and dog also, right? But because we have written our code like this, each time this function animal runs, right? You are creating a new function for it, correct? animal.eat के लिए क्या किया, नया फंक्शन क्रिएट किया. जब इसको लायन के साथ कॉल किया था, जब डॉगी के साथ किया, then also we ended up creating a new function. Do we understand this much, everyone? Guys, सबको ये समझ आता है? ठीक है. So what we seeked to do is we wanted to improve this. ठीक है. उसको improve करने का एक ही तरीका है, जैसा guys हमने HTML में भी देखा था when we were creating this, right? If we give a new method like this each time, right, then JavaScript does not know its name. It's an anonymous function, right? So it has to create a new function each time. So instead, what you can do is you can create a name for it, right? So now this is also an anonymous function, but you give it a name. So it's a functional expression, as we had learned, right? But now it has a fixed name. Even if you write it 100 times, mouse enter handler, it still points to the same function. Does everyone understand this? Right? Now, guys, all we have really done is, जैसा वो हमने बाहर names दिए थे separately, I have just created one object for them because I wanted to keep them together. That's the only thing. And then the keys of this objects are basically holding. So we know, right? Shared animal methods dot eat, right, is just a variable, right? So in the keys of this shared animal methods, I'm maintaining those functions. Do we understand this, everyone? Right? And lastly, the only thing we've done is when we called animal I, right? So big thing. So when we call it with liony and 100, what would have happened? Ye function call हुआ, right? This was liony and this was 100, right? So you created a new object. Hands down, this is a new object creation. उसका एक name है, उसका एक power है, right? The only optimization or only good thing happening here is हमने बोला animal.eat is nothing but नया function मत create करो like this one, but use an existing function which I'm just storing in my shared animal methods wala variable, right? So I said shared animal methods.eat. That's it. Similarly, animal.run के लिए भी ये किया, rest के लिए भी ये किया. So when you called it with liony, it was reusing these methods or functions. When you called it with doggy, new animal object was created. This happened, and we were reusing these methods from shared animal methods. Is it more clear now? Right? अब clear है, Chinmay? Perfect. Yes. So Ajit, as we know, keys of an object, right? They are just one way of creating variables, है ना? So see, either I do const person is equal to इसका name होगा something, उसका let's say class होगा something, right? Either I do this or I can just do this const person name, two variables, const person class, right? So in some sense, doing this or doing this is basically creating two variables only, right? However, in this case, I'm just storing it inside an object because it makes sense, na? Person की सारी details एक साथ एक ही object में आ गई, or we could have separated them like this. So instead of creating three named methods, what I have done is I have moved each one of them. I have moved those common methods into one object, which I'm calling as shared animal methods, right? At the end, what they are doing is they're just holding variable names to animal methods. Make sense? Right? So basically this shared animal methods is serving as our repository is serving as a repository of common animal methods. Advantage, very clear, very simple. Liony, doggy, whatever things happen, we will just refer to these variables instead of creating new anonymous functions. When you scale to 1,000 or 10,000 animal ka zoo, right, you end up saving a lot of memory, right? Because now new functions are not getting created. You're reusing these instances. Correct. We don't need, so we have already created them once and then we are using them for everyone instead of creating new ones, right? In this case, because these are anonymous functions, JavaScript does not know a reference to them. Each time animal function is called, right? Please understand this. Each time animal function is called, new anonymous functions will each time have to be created. But in this case, because they were in one place, we were able to reuse them. Correct? Guys, is this making sense? Shweta, I'll just read it. It was a long message. Just give me a second. Guys, yes or no, please give me some answer. Otherwise, there is no way for me to know. शिवम, अब समझ आ गया आपको? Okay, perfect. Perfect. Sweta, please just type your question again. I'll read through it. One time in Hindi. Okay. So there are two different objects is going to create. One for lion, one for dog, but not methods and keys associated to that is going to create again and again. That is going to take its keys. Going to take its keys from shared function, which got created once. So here we are. Nice, Sweta. These keys you are still creating new, right? Name and power. तो आप नया ही create कर रहे हो. Each time you're calling animal I, you are still assigning a name to it, still assigning a power to it, correct? Because they are being passed from these variables, right? Just that the shared methods, right, or the shared functions, which were these, you have kept in a common place and you are reusing them. हिंदी में ठीक है यार, मैं हिंदी में बताता हूँ सबको. Okay, who wants to hear me explain this in Hindi? Please, please just type Hindi. सिर्फ दो लोगों को? अरे बोलो ना सब लोग यार, जिसको भी चाहिए. Okay, ठीक है. Let's see how Hindi makes a difference. ठीक है? Can we write console page? What does that mean? Guys, this is not the thing जिसको run करके ज़्यादा समझ में आएगा, please. So just avoid that nonsense of running this code, okay? ठीक है. Let's understand this once again. Will everyone be very attentive this time? ठीक है? ठीक है, चलो हिंदी में बताता हूँ. ठीक है, हमें क्या करना था? We wanted to create animals. ठीक है? Animals की क्या क्या चीजें होती हैं guys? एक तो behavior, एक तो properties होती हैं, ठीक है, और एक behaviors होते हैं. तो हमारे animal की दो properties हैं, सिर्फ name और power, and 3 behaviors हैं. ठीक है? हमने देखा था that this definitely works. हम इस तरीके से बना सकते हैं, right? What I did is मैंने बोला animal, name of the animal, animal का power, right? सिर्फ ये समझो जब ये function call किया तो क्या हुआ, right? Animal is a function, we understand that. It got called by 2 properties, liony and 100. ठीक है? अंदर में क्या किया? We created a new object like this. This is a blank object, कुछ नहीं है इसके अंदर. हमने name और power वो वाला दे दिया which we had passed in the parameters, right? Then what we did is हमने इसके जो behaviors थे, eat, run and rest, ठीक है, उन तीनों को एज एन एनोनिमस फंक्शन यहाँ पे प्रोवाइड कर दिया। ठीक है गाइस, इतना समझ आता है सबको? बिहेवियर्स को एनोनिमस फंक्शन की तरह डाल दिया, राइट? ओके, अब समझते हैं इससे प्रॉब्लम क्या होता है। सबसे पहले द प्रॉब्लम इज, अभी आपके पास सिर्फ 2 एनिमल्स थे। लेट्स से यू हैड 10,000 एनिमल्स, राइट? व्हिच इज वेरी पॉसिबल। लेट्स से वी वर क्रिएटिंग अ जू, ठीक है? तो आप उन एनिमल का नेम और उनकी पावर इस फंक्शन में पास करोगे। ईच टाइम ये फंक्शन रन होता है, इट विल क्रिएट अ न्यू एनिमल ऑब्जेक्ट जिसका नेम होगा, पावर होगा जो आपने बताया होगा, एंड इट विल हैव होल लॉट ऑफ, it will have all of these methods also, right? The problem there is, since these methods or these functions are anonymous in nature, right? इसको anonymous function बोलते हैं क्योंकि इस function का कोई नाम नहीं है ना, right? So each time जब आप इसको call करते हो animal को, new and more functions are getting created, correct? So for 10,000 animals, you are going to have 30,000 anonymous functions, right? क्योंकि हर एनिमल के लिए 3 फंक्शंस है एनोनिमस, करेक्ट? इतना समझ आता है सबको? ओके, व्हाट वाज अ बेटर वे ऑफ डूइंग इट? व्हाट वाज अ बेटर वे ऑफ डूइंग इट? अगर इन फंक्शंस को हम कहीं बाहर रख देते, राइट, तो उनका नाम हो जाता, राइट? इधर देखो, हमने क्या किया, वी क्रिएटेड एन ऑब्जेक्ट जिसका नाम था शेयर्ड एनिमल फंक्शंस या फिर शेयर्ड एनिमल मेथड्स। इसके अंदर 3 कीज हैं, ईट, रन एंड रेस्ट, ठीक है? उनके अंदर ये 3 फंक्शंस हैं, करेक्ट? करेक्ट गाइस, क्लियर है? ठीक है, अब मैंने क्या किया, मैंने अपनी स्मार्टनेस लगाई, एक नया एनिमल इंप्रूव करके फंक्शन बनाया। अब मान लो मेरे पास 10,000 एनिमल्स थे, ठीक है? हर बार जब मैंने इसको पास किया, लेट्स से इस केस में लाइनी और 100 पास किया इधर, क्रिएटेड न्यू एनिमल ऑब्जेक्ट, उसको नेम दे दिया, उसका, उसकी पावर दे दी लाइनी 100, करेक्ट? बट मेरी स्मार्टनेस इसमें थी दैट उसके ईट, रन और रेस्ट बिहेवियर को मैंने इस ऑब्जेक्ट में स्टोर किया हुआ था ऑलरेडी, राइट? सो ईच एनिमल इज नाउ गोइंग टू शेयर दीज थिंग्स, राइट? बिकॉज मैं क्या बोलूंगा, शेयर्ड एनिमल मेथड्स का ईट, शेयर्ड एनिमल मेथड्स का रन और शेयर्ड एनिमल मेथड का रेस्ट, राइट? Guys, is this clear? So the advantage which you immediately have is, now when you had 10,000 animals, the number of functions that you are creating is only 3 and not 30,000, right? Because these are sharing their behaviors with just one time. So what we did is हमने एक बार create कर दिया method. That's what it is, Amit. It's a reference to a function, just that I have stored it in an object, right? So for 10,000 animals, their behaviors or their shared behaviors are only going to be these 3: eat, run, and rest from this object. Naki 30,000. So isn't that a huge memory saving, guys? Huge, like too much. Is now this clear to everyone? Okay, let me do another thing which should make this absolutely clear. I will give you guys another simple example. ठीक है, इधर देखो, I was creating a function. ठीक है, let's say I have a function, let me call this animal, and इसमें कुछ object का नहीं है guys, it has that animal is object animal dot name. Of course this name I'll pass from here, right? And finally animal dot speak is equal to a function is console.log speaking animal. ठीक है? It says animal has already been declared because it's written here. Let me call it animal T for animal entity. ठीक है? ये समझ में आया सबको? बहुत simple है. It does not have any this. It has nothing, right? Now please understand. When I call this animal T, right? Let's say with lion. Oh, sorry, I forgot to return the animal object. तो उसने कुछ return नहीं किया. Right? Just clearing this. Now let's say when I call animal T with lion, हमें क्या मिला guys? एक name मिला और एक speak मिला. ठीक है? इसको store कर लेते हैं variable L में. जब मैंने बोला L dot speak, because we know it's a function, what happens? It says speaking animal, right? Do we understand this? Okay. Now understand the problem. जितनी बार आप animal T को call करेंगे, right? So let's say what I'm going to do is, let's say I have an array of 100 elements, right? And I'm calling animal. Let's say I say 100, I0, I is less than 100, I plus plus, and I call animal T, right, in here. And of course I pass a name. Let's pass the name as I, right? What that is going to do, guys, it's going to create 100 animals, correct? Correct? The problem there is each animal is going to get an anonymous function, correct? Guys, समझ में आ रहा है? Instead of this, if I had just done one very simple thing, यार, बहुत ध्यान से देखना. I'm taking this function यहाँ से, moving this guy out, ठीक है? And I'm saying speak is equal to function this thing, right? And here I say speak, right? Now each time you create animal T, what will be the speak of that animal? Is going to be this method or this function, right? Which you have already created outside. And now even if you, let's say, call it in a loop 100 times, right? The speak is still going to be this thing. Even for 100 or 1000 or 10,000 animals, ये जो speak है, it will be the speak function which is created outside. Yes or no? Exactly, Amit. Because वो अब it's not an anonymous function, so JavaScript will not have to recreate it each time. So animal.speak is just going to refer to this function which I had created already outside. Correct? What that is going to do, that is going to bring a lot of memory saving. Correct? Yeah, and the code becomes cleaner, Dheeraj. That is a given. ठीक है? So मैंने यहाँ पे क्या किया, guys? I've done a very simple thing because I knew that I did not just have speak. I had eat, run, and rest. So I'm just combinedly तीनों को मैं एक साथ रख रहा हूँ एक object में which is called shared animal methods. But at the end of the day, shared animal methods dot eat is just one function, right? But this guy is going to get run, this guy is going to get, and rest, this guy is going to get. Are we clear now, everyone? How this improved our memory footprint by large magnitude, right? So the problem was anonymous function, right? जैसे ही anonymous function को इससे बाहर लेके चले गए, now JavaScript does not have to recreate these each time animal runs, correct? And that brings a big memory saving. Everyone clear? Can I move forward now? Guys, कुछ doubt है तो पूछ लो. Okay, then I'm moving forward. ठीक है? So this was called functional instantiation with shared methods. So for one-time usage, we may use anonymous function, but for every time usage, yes, Amit. For every time usage or for multi-usages, it's always better to give that name a reference. Okay, perfect. Perfect. Let's go. Okay. Okay. Now moving forward, right? So guys, by moving shared methods to its own object, which we have done here, right? And then just referencing to these objects inside the animal function, we have solved for two things. One, we have solved for a lot of memory wastage, and we have made the animal object smaller. How have we made it smaller? Because it will have these two properties, and the other properties are going to lie here. Okay? Of course, you can call them by saying animal.eat, but we know that it's going to refer shared animal methods ka method. Done? Okay, so we started with a very poor example. We improved it, and then we further improved it using this technology, right? Functional instantiation with shared methods. Perfect. Okay, now we are going to improve this further. Okay, kaise? Please answer samajhna, guys. I'm introducing another feature of JavaScript, another feature of the object, right? There's something called as object.create in JavaScript. Okay? How does it work? Samajhte hain, right? So it basically allows us to create an object, right, which will delegate to another object on failed lookups. Let me explain this. I'll speak it again. Creates an object which delegates to another, right, which delegates to another object on failed lookups. I'll explain this line. Just give me a second. Idhar dekhna, guys. Yeah. Let's say you had created an object temp at E1 and it had B2. Amit samjha raha hu, suno. Right? What happens when I do temp.a? What happens? What happens when I do temp.a? I get 1, correct? मुझे पता है अगर मैं temp.b करूंगा तो मुझे 2 मिल जाएगा, right? But what happens when I do temp.c or temp.e? We know ऐसा कुछ exist ही नहीं करता इस object के अंदर, right? Correct? So, for instance, समझना guys, if I was creating a doggy, right? And I said doggy, dog I, rather, dot bark. What happens? There is no such method, right? If I'm creating doggy with animal, it's going to get undefined, right? But what if there was a way of delegating these failed lookups? Failed lookup क्या हुआ? जब आप एक property को lookup करते हैं ऐसे करके. So what you're doing, you are looking up the property A in temp object. ऐसा बोल सकता हूँ ना मैं? We are looking up property A in temp object, right? But let's say there was a failure in looking up that property, right? What can I do then? So मैंने temp में जब E देखने का कोशिश किया, it did not exist here, right? So what happened? A failed lookup happened, right? A failed lookup happened. Object.create is a mechanism in which जब भी failed lookup होता है एक object पे, वो उस lookup को दूसरे object पे ढूंढता है, right? For example, समझते हैं, अगर आपने temp.e, जब आपने बोला temp.e, तो JavaScript ने क्या किया होगा? JavaScript started looking for E in this temp object, right? But E to mila nahi because E did not exist. What if JavaScript was able to look for E in another object, right? that is delegation on another object on field lookup. That is what object.create helps us to, right? Let me explain that with an example very quickly. Samjho guys. Let's say there was a parent. The name of this parent was, I don't know, ABC, right? And the age was, I don't know, 49, something, right? Finally, their nationality was Indian. So what have we created? We have created a parent object, correct? Now I'm creating a child. And instead of creating child as an object like this, what I'm going to do is I'll say child is object.create parent, right? And finally, I do child.name is, let's say, def. You can be assured that this guy created an object. So child.name is a property. I say def child.age is equal to, let's say, 9. Correct? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say child.nationality. Right? Now we know we created a child object जिसमें हमने name दिया, हमने age दिया, but हमने nationality नहीं दिया. We did not give nationality, right? But what did I tell you about object.create? It will delegate the failed lookups. So child nationality will be a failed lookup. It will delegate it to this guy, parent, right? तो फिर आपको child.nationality में क्या मिलेगा? What will you get here? Correct. Okay. Gonna go here, type this out, right? तो हमें पता है child अगर मैं object लिखता हूँ, so guys child object में आपको भी क्या दिख रहा है? आपको सिर्फ age and name दिख रहा है, right? Right? Because इसका दो ही तो properties है, name और age है. But because it was created using object.create, whenever there is a failed lookup, it will refer to the parent, which is this guy, and you will get the nationality as Indian. Right? So we have accidentally walked onto a technology जहां पे child object ऐसा ही दिख रहा है, इसके अंदर सिर्फ age और name है, right? But जैसे ही आप उस पे कोई प्रॉपर्टी एक्सेस करने का कोशिश करते हैं, it will delegate the failed lookups to this guy. Did everyone understand this? Extremely important concept. मैं आपको इसका एक और एग्जांपल देता हूँ guys. When you write object, right? जब आपने ऑब्जेक्ट लिखा इस तरीके से, what do you see here? It shows you something. It shows you a function. Just remember that, right? But इसके ऊपर keys भी हैं, इसके ऊपर assign भी है, इसके ऊपर values भी हैं, which we've seen, right? But when you just typed object, you didn't see any of them, right? So internally, what is JavaScript doing? The failed lookups on the object get delegated to its parent. Does this make sense? Is everyone clear with this? Please type yes. I've just explained a simple concept. Okay, who did not understand this? I'll repeat this again. Of course, Shivendra, I'll repeat it again, don't worry. Exactly, Ankit. You summarized it nicely. Don't worry, guys, I'll explain it again. Don't worry, suno. Okay. मान लो मैंने एक ऑब्जेक्ट बनाया चाइल्ड करके, इसमें एक नेम था ABC स्मॉल, एज था 35. जब मैं child 2.age बोलता हूँ, what do I get? I get 35. जब मैं child 2.name बोलता हूँ, what do I get? I get ABC. डू यू अंडरस्टैंड दिस मच? शुभम, शिवेंद्र, समझ आता है इतना? मैंने सिर्फ एक ही बात बोली है गाइस, अगर मैं इस पे बोलूं चाइल्ड टू डॉट नेशनैलिटी या फिर कंट्री बोलते हैं ना सिंपल, तो आपको क्या मिल रहा है? शुभम, क्या मिल रहा है आपको? क्यों मिल रहा है अनडिफाइंड? बिकॉज वो इसमें एग्जिस्ट ही नहीं करता, राइट? तो वो प्रॉपर्टीज जिनका लुकअप फेल हो जाता है क्योंकि वो एग्जिस्ट नहीं करती, उसको मैं क्या कह रहा हूँ इंग्लिश में? फेल लुकअप कह रहा हूँ, करेक्ट? तो मैंने बोला गाइस, मान लो हमारे पास एक ऐसा तरीका होता इन विच वी वर एबल टू डेलीगेट मतलब पास ऑन कर देना फेल लुकअप्स को एक दूसरे ऑब्जेक्ट पे। समझ में आया इतना? फेल लुकअप जो प्रॉपर्टी नहीं मिली उसको किसी दूसरे ऑब्जेक्ट में जाके ढूंढो, राइट? अगर हम ये चीज कर सकते तो बहुत अच्छा होता। देन व्हाट आई डिड वेरी सिंपली इज, मैंने एक पेरेंट बनाया, ठीक है? इस बार मैंने चाइल्ड को इस तरीके से बनाया, इंस्टेड ऑफ क्रिएटिंग द चाइल्ड ऑब्जेक्ट लाइक दिस, आई क्रिएटेड द चाइल्ड ऑब्जेक्ट लाइक दिस, राइट? एंड व्हाट दिस डज इज इट जस्ट क्रिएट्स अ नॉर्मल चाइल्ड ऑब्जेक्ट, आपको ऐसे ही दिखेगा वो ब्लैंक ऑब्जेक्ट, राइट? सो लेट्स ट्राई दिस। मैं इसको चाइल्ड 3 बोलता हूँ, ठीक है? चाइल्ड 3 क्या है अगर देखते हैं? चाइल्ड 3 क्या है गाइस? एक एम्प्टी ऑब्जेक्ट है, करेक्ट? आपको कुछ दिख नहीं रहा है उसमें, आपको सिर्फ ऐसे ही दिख रहा है, राइट? बट इट हैज वन स्पेशल प्रॉपर्टी, it has just one special property. What is that special property? Whenever there is a failed lookup, right, it will just delegate that to its parent or to the object using which it was created like this. Is this hard? Anyone? शिवेंद्र, अब क्लियर है भाई? शुभम, परफेक्टली क्लियर है शिवेंद्र और शुभम, आप दोनों को कॉम्प्लेक्स तो नहीं था ना? परफेक्ट, राइट? ओके, ओके, पूछो अंकित, आप भी पूछो। अमित, क्यों कुछ और कहना चाह रहे हो? व्हाट इट इज, जस्ट कॉल इट दैट ना, अपनी डेफिनेशंस मत दो सर, कंफ्यूज हो जाओगे। See, this is the pure concept. Whatever you say will not be, no, there's nothing to say sorry about. This very simple thing, right? What I am just telling you here is the pure concept, exactly how it works. This line, right, is all there is. Delegation to another object on failed lookup. Don't try to frame it any other way, guys. इसको इस तरीके से समझ लो. That's it. That will be the end of it. Believe me. What is meant by const child? अरविंद, आपने जावास्क्रिप्ट की कोई भी क्लासेस अटेंड नहीं किए क्या ब्रो? Each object, Ankit, is going to get created like this instead of getting created like this. Karna, that's the only thing. Parent pass किसी है वो? अरविंद, मुझे समझ नहीं आ रहा, मैं आपको अनम्यूट कर सकता हूँ अभी, अगर आप मुझे अपना क्वेश्चन समझाना चाहते हो तो। Arvind, I can unmute you, but I'm not able to understand you. Do you want to repeat that on audio? Okay. बताओ भाई, क्या कहना चाहते हो? Go ahead, unmute yourself. बोलो अरविंद। प्रतीक, I don't want to use that term because हमने नहीं बात की है inheritance क्या होता है. But if you just understand this, जो मैंने आपको अभी बताया, inheritance is not far. Exactly, आरवी, मुझे भी नहीं पता क्या होता है. Okay, so just do this, Arvind, since your mic is not working. आपका जो भी question है उसको अच्छे से लिख दो, so that I'm able to understand it. Suppose we know we have 4 objects. How are we going to find field lookups in there? See, I don't know why you want to complicate this, Ankit, but field lookups can happen only on one object. There is no way for field lookups to happen on 4 objects simultaneously, because एक बारी में you will be accessing one object only, right? The second bit is whenever there is failed lookup on that particular object, it will delegate that lookup to this guy. Explain 91133. You need to write object.create each time you want to create an object which delegates failed lookups on its parent. Const child, either you could have created it like this. ये समझ आता है अरविंद आपको? Anjali, that's a bad question because we have just done this. तो अरविंद आपने पुरानी क्लासेस अटेंड ही नहीं किए हैं क्या यार ऑब्जेक्ट्स की? Have you not attended classes on object, Arvind? Arvind, it's a yes or no question. Have you attended? क्या आपने पुरानी ऑब्जेक्ट पे क्लासेस अटेंड की हैं? I have to move forward, यार. You're not replying. तो आप उसको पहले पढ़ो. Just look at the video once, then you will understand what this means. Right? Because this is a very basic thing, यार. मैंने क्या किया? मैंने एक child नाम का variable बनाया है, and I'm just assigning an empty object to it. Anjali, have we not assigned other attributes to child? Anjali, is this not assigning other attributes to a child? Yeah, I don't think there's a valid question. Guys, shall I move forward? Because I don't think there was any valid questions up until now. If everyone is okay, I would like to move forward. Just please say yes. Okay, great. Okay. So what have we learned just now? We have learned that whenever, just to create a mechanism wherein failed lookups happen on the other object, we can use object.create. मैंने सिर्फ इतना बोला है, right? Okay, so what happened in this example, child was created using object.create of parent. So whenever there was a failed property lookup on child, JavaScript engine will delegate that lookup to the parent object, right? So what that means is, even though child does not have the nationality property, guys, or the country property, parent does have it, right? So when you do parent dot this thing, you just reach there, right? So now that we know about this powerful weapon, which is called object.create, can we use it? Please think of this very carefully, guys. Can we use this to simplify our animal class or our animal function, right? If you understand this very carefully, can we not use this technology to delegate all these lookups, right? Lookups on common property to shared animal methods? Yes or no, guys? Did someone understand what I just said? So doesn't that like greatly simplify जो भी हमने किया? You want me to show that to you? Okay, आ जाओ. Function. What was it called? It was called animal. I'll just copy this, okay? So that you are able to see. अमित मजा आ गया भाई, बढ़िया बात बोल दी बहुत. So I'm just going to call it animal II. So animal improved. Okay. Now instead of creating animal like this, all I have to do is I have to say object.create and I pass shared animal methods to it. Okay. उसके बाद bye everyone. And now everything remains as it is. Is that I'll call this guy lion II, dog II, animal II, animal II. Did you guys understand what I just did here? It cannot be made clearer, guys. इससे क्या होगा, एनी फील्ड लुकअप। ओके, समझते हैं क्या होगा। जब अब आप बोलोगे लाइन आई डॉट ईट, तो क्या होगा, जावास्क्रिप्ट क्या चेक करेगा, हे एनिमल के ऊपर आई एनिमल के ऊपर ईट है, नहीं है, सो डेलीगेट दैट फील्ड लुकअप टू shared animal methods। क्या उसके ऊपर eat है? Does shared animal methods have eat? Yes or no? So it will just use it. Simple. Simple. So if you modify code, then how we read your code at home? What did I modify? यार पूरा लिखा तो गया Sirjul. What is the question? I don't understand the concern. Anyway, guys, did you understand this? The animal thing, animal I thing got removed. Which one, yaar? Animal I is still here, na? Yaar, what are you guys saying? Animal is here. Animal I is here. Animal I is here. Shared animal methods I is here. Shared animal methods is here. What is the problem, guys? Arey yaar, can we please focus on the concepts, yaar? Okay. Anyway, so by doing this, we have created a mechanism using which we will delegate the failed lookups to this guy, right? And that's what I wanted to tell you. Failed lookups delegation is what we have achieved using this. Can we make this code more short? Till now understood well. अजीत भाई स्टेप बाय स्टेप चलो ना, कहाँ से स्टार्ट किया था कहाँ तक पहुंच गए, और क्या मतलब इसको shall I erase this? Okay, are we clear on this front? Guys, do not talk nonsense. I am warning you this time. If you go and Google prototype, you will spend months and not be able to understand it. Please sun lo. This is one of the hardest concepts in JavaScript. If you are able to explain this when an interviewer asks, the interview is done. You're just hired because no one understands this. So I have had enough nonsense now. Can we please focus for some time? No more stupid questions. If you want to learn, learn. Otherwise, move out of the class. Okay, so what have we achieved now? Let's understand this. We started with functional instantiation, right? How did we go about this? We created an animal object. We gave it all the methods. The problem was with this was you could just create one animal with it, right? We improved this. How did we improve this? We created a function out of it, right? Whenever we are calling these things, right? In this mechanism, we are able to create multiple animals with it. What was the problem with this approach? The problem was each time a new function was getting created. Why is that bad? That is bad because a lot of memory was being used, right? How did we improve this? We improved this with shared methods. How did that work? We had these three methods, right? And we were just giving instances to them, right? So now each time you call animal I with an animal name and an animal power, an animal is getting created, right? An animal is getting created and without the wastage of any kind of memory, right? Okay. Then what we realized is there an even better way of doing it? The answer is yes. How do we do that? We use the powerful method called object.create. And very simply, in one line, what does object.create do? Hey, it creates an object because it's called object.create, right? But with one special feature. In the object which is created with object.create, whenever there is a failed lookup on property, right? So when you try to find a property which does not exist in the object created, it will transfer that lookup or start looking that up in this guy or the parent object which you supplied to object.create, right? So what did we do here then? Child.name was accessible, child.age was accessible, but child.nationality, guys, was not accessible, right? Because the child object, this basically creates an empty object. Name and age were fed into this object. Nationality was not fed because now it just has name and age. So when you do nationality, because it was created using object.create, the lookup is going to happen on its parent because there was a failed lookup here. Okay? And that's how object.create helped us. Now we went one step ahead and applied this technology in our animal methods. How we did that? We created animal II, right? To that, what I've done is object.create shared animal methods. So what that means is now when on any object which was created with this, whenever there is a failed lookup, it will look in the shared animal methods, right? Which reduces my function only to this much. When I say now lion I dot eat, what ends up happening is, see, it will look, hey, does the animal have eat? No, it has name and power only. However, because it was created with object.create, any failed lookup on property is going to happen on this guy or the parent object. That happens, right? And eat is basically this function. And this function runs. Are we clear up until here? Okay. Now, because of shortage of time, we'll have to stop here. Tomorrow, there are many more things to come up. Similarly, we'll just keep building on this. Just for your reference, this thing is called prototype in JavaScript. I have taken over 300 interviews in my career of 3 years. And I do not know of one person who was able to tell me what a JavaScript prototype is. If someone had explained it to me like this, he was hired. No other questions asked. You can try searching whichever website, whatever nonsense on the internet, you will not find an explanation to these things. So if you are able to understand this, please appreciate that. Okay. No, see, it's not a question of teaching well. The concept, the thing is only this much, guys, that I exactly know what prototype is. I am one of the few folks who understands what a prototype is. And that's why I'm able to understand this, make you guys understand this. Okay. So the reason that I'm saying all these things is whenever I'm teaching these intricate concepts, I do not want or I do not appreciate nonsense questions on the chat. So I will not tolerate nonsense when we are teaching such intricate topics is the reason I'm saying all of this. I'm just pushing this code. कल भी क्लास है मयंक, परसों भी क्लास है. No, Amit, I have not defined a prototype until now. All of these things that I have taught today is just to build up for the prototypal concept. Okay. Yes, tomorrow the class is 5 to 7. Day after the class is I think I've kept it from 11 to 1, but I'll tell you tomorrow. Yeah, 1 to 3. No, I will be teaching the whole of next week and probably the week after that also. My personal plan is because I wanted to create cover JavaScript for you guys as quickly as possible. No, Sweta. Right now, see, all of this is just a built up to something which is called as prototype. What is prototype? You don't know right now. All you know is object.create is a mechanism for field lookups. That's all you know, and that's all you need to know today. कल बात करेंगे prototype पे. Revision के लिए time. See, guys, you have these lectures, you have these video lectures with you, right? You can refer to these again, right? Today is just setting the base for this. Pawan, I really request you not to make these statements because you don't even understand what you are writing right now. Let me cover prototype and then you can make the judgment for yourself. What the date object inherits, what prototype is, right? Thank you, Ajay. Thank you, everyone. Glad you liked it. Glad you enjoyed this. Thank you, Shivam. Thank you, Atul. Glad you liked it. Thank you, everyone. Good night. Bye-bye, Mayank. Bye, everyone. Good night, guys. Take care. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye. Take care, folks. See you tomorrow. If anyone has any questions, please stay back and ask. Otherwise, you can leave. We'll see to that, Chinmay, when we move to React. Abhi ke liye, whatever has been taught, right? Just remember that. There is no question of forgetting it, right?